She was 47 years old, had worked 2 jobs for 11 years straight, and on a Tuesday night in February, she sat on the edge of her bed and realized she had done everything exactly right. And that was the problem. But what she found when she opened her closet that same night, I will tell you, because it will change the way you see your own life. Stay with me until the end. Beverly had never missed a bill, not one. She had never bought anything she couldn't pay cash for. She had never borrowed money from family, never carried a balance past 30 days, never spent on what she called frivolous. She packed her lunch every single morning since 2012. She drove a car she'd paid off years ago, a silver sedan, with a small crack in the rear bumper she kept meaning to fix, but there was always something more important. Always. And still, at the end of every month, there was nothing left. Does that sound familiar? You work, you sacrifice. You tell yourself, one more month, one more paycheck, and then things will turn, and somehow, they never do. I want to talk to you today about something nobody ever teaches women like us. Not our mothers, not our schools, not our churches. Something Beverly had to learn the hard way, sitting on the edge of a bed she had made perfectly that morning, in the dark, with the sound of the street outside, and the weight of doing everything right pressing down on her chest like a stone. Beverly Okafor worked the morning shift at the cafeteria of an elementary school in a suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. She arrived every morning at 6:45 before the sun was properly up, and she left at 2:30, which was exactly in time to catch the first bus that connected to the second bus that dropped her 2 blocks from the dry cleaners on Maple Street, where she worked 3 afternoons a week folding and sorting. She was a tall woman with strong hands and the habit of tucking her hair under a blue net before she walked into any kitchen. The blue net went on before she tied the apron. That was always the first thing. Blue net, apron, hands washed twice. She had done it so many times her hands knew the order even when her mind was somewhere else entirely. She wore white work sneakers, the thick-soled kind that don't slip on wet tile. She'd bought them 3 years ago, and at some point the lace on the left shoe had snapped near the eyelet. Instead of buying new laces, she had taken a spare one from her youngest daughter's old canvas shoes, the ones that had stopped fitting. The borrowed lace was pink, just that one shoe. Left foot, pink lace. Nobody ever noticed, or if they did, they didn't say anything. Beverly noticed every single morning when she put them on. Every single morning, she told herself she'd pick up new laces at the dollar store on the way home. And somehow, she never did. She had 2 daughters, 22 and 19. The older one, Denise, had moved out and was doing more or less all right on her own. The younger, Tanya, was at community college and lived at home. Beverly paid for most of Tanya's books, her bus pass, and the small things that added up quietly the way small things do. She didn't mind. That was the part people never understood about Beverly. She genuinely did not mind giving. She had watched her own mother sacrifice without a word, and she had made a private promise to do the same. Because in her family, that was what love looked like. You gave. You kept giving. You were proud that you could. But there was a jar. It sat at the back of the top shelf in her bedroom closet, behind a box of winter sweaters she never wore because she kept the heat low to manage the bill. A plain glass jar, the kind that used to hold pickles, with a piece of masking tape on the lid. In her own careful handwriting, small, neat letters, one word, mine. She had started putting money in it about 4 years ago. Not much, sometimes $3, sometimes $5. Once, after a holiday bonus at the school, $20 all at once, folded and pressed flat before she slid it in. She never counted it in front of anyone. She counted it alone, on Sunday evenings, sitting on the closet floor with the door mostly pulled shut, as if she were ashamed. She wasn't ashamed. She just knew that if anyone saw it, someone would have a need, and the jar would empty before she was ready. What was it for? A sewing machine. Nothing fancy, a mid-range model she had stood in front of once at a store in the mall, the kind that could do embroidery and basic tailoring. Beverly had been sewing since she was 12, taught by her grandmother in a house in rural Georgia, and somewhere quiet in the back of her mind, she carried a small dream. Not a business plan, not an ambition. Just the feeling of making something with her hands that belonged entirely to her. That was the dream. Small, private, carefully kept. The jar was her one secret, her one small world. In November, the school district cut her hours. Not all of them, just enough to matter. 6 hours a week, which came out to about $112 a month. Just gone. A memo posted in the break room on a Wednesday morning. Beverly read it twice, folded it, slid it in her apron pocket, finished her shift, and didn't cry until she was on the bus with her forehead against the cold window. She picked up one more afternoon at the dry cleaners. That helped some, but then the hot water heater went in January. $750. She paid it. That was what the emergency fund was for. She rebuilt it over 3 months. Then Tanya needed a new laptop for school. $480. Beverly paid half. Then the car needed brake pads. $220. Each time, Beverly adjusted, recalculated, kept going. She never asked anyone for help. She never complained. She simply looked at the numbers, moved things around, and moved forward. But one evening in February, Tanya came into the kitchen while Beverly was packing her lunch for the next morning. The same lunch, the same as every night. A sandwich, a banana, a small container of whatever had been left from dinner. Tanya stood in the doorway and watched for a minute. Then she said very quietly, not unkindly, "Mom, you never buy yourself anything." Beverly looked up. Tanya shrugged. "I'm not criticizing. I've never seen you buy something that was just for you." Beverly said, "I'm fine." Tanya nodded and went to her room. It was a small thing, a small, true thing. Beverly stood there with the bag of bread in her hand and felt something shift inside her chest, a movement like furniture being rearranged in a room she'd thought was empty. She pushed it back down immediately, because there was no room for that kind of feeling on a Wednesday night with a 5:45 wake-up ahead of her. She finished packing the lunch, turned off the kitchen light, went to bed, and could not sleep. She lay in the dark and added the numbers the way she had 100 times before. Money in, money out. Everything accounted for, everything assigned. Utilities, groceries, Tanya's bus pass, car insurance, the small amount to savings each month, the even smaller amount she dropped in the jar. And she realized, lying there in the dark at 2 in the morning, that she had not spent a single dollar on herself in 7 months. Not a haircut, not a new piece of clothing, not a book, not a coffee sitting down at a cafe table, not a movie, not one single thing that had not been for the house or the girls or the job or the future. She was pouring everything out, every cent, every hour, every drop. And she had told herself this was strength. She had told herself this was what responsible women did. She had built her entire identity on the idea that wanting nothing for yourself was the highest form of love. But what she felt at 2 in the morning was not the peace of someone who had done things right. It was the hollow, airless exhaustion of someone who had been running on empty so long she had forgotten what full felt like. 2 weeks later, Beverly was at the grocery store on a Saturday morning, the only morning she allowed herself to shop. She had her list. She had the small calculator in her coat pocket, the one she'd had since 2008, because she did not trust herself to do the math in her head when she was tired. And she was always tired. She was in the checkout line. The woman ahead of her was old, maybe 75, 78. Small, with a green wool coat that had been pressed so many times the fabric had gone smooth at the elbows. She had a way of standing completely still. No phone, no shifting from foot to foot, no impatience, just still. Hands folded in front of her, eyes forward. At peace in a way Beverly couldn't name, but recognized immediately as something she wanted. Beverly's phone rang, an unfamiliar number. She let it go. The ringing made the old woman turn around. She looked at Beverly, just looked, the way people rarely look at each other anymore. Not past or through, but actually at. "Long list?" the woman said. Beverly glanced at her paper. "The usual." The woman nodded. She looked at Beverly's cart, then at Beverly's face. Then she said, "You know what I used to do? I used to put myself last on my own grocery list. Everything for the house first. Everything for the family. And then, if something was left, maybe something small for me. A pause, light as paper. There was never anything left. Beverly's throat tightened. She didn't say anything. The woman turned back toward the register. The cashier scanned. The belt moved. And then, without turning around, still facing forward, the old woman said it. The sentence Beverly would carry for the rest of her life. A well that pours and never drinks will be dry before spring. That was all. She paid for her groceries, tucked the receipt in her coat pocket, picked up her bags, and walked out through the automatic doors without looking back. Beverly stood at the register with her card in her hand. The cashier said, "Ma'am," twice before Beverly heard her. She drove home, put the groceries away, made a cup of coffee, and for once sat down at the kitchen table to drink it while it was still hot. She did not turn on the TV. She did not check her phone. She just sat there with the cup in both hands and let herself think. And what she thought about was everything she had never been taught. The secret that had been sitting right in front of her, dressed up as virtue. The first thing she understood was this: being responsible is not the same as being whole. She had been responsible her entire adult life, punctual and careful and dependable and self-denying, and she had confused all of that with having a good life. She had confused the absence of disaster with the presence of joy. They are not the same thing. They are nothing alike. You can do everything right on paper and still be quietly disappearing. A little more each year, and no budget will ever catch it, because disappearing does not show up as a line item. The second thing came from Tanya's words in the kitchen. At the time, Beverly had heard them as a small observation, but sitting with her coffee, she heard them differently. Tanya had not been criticizing her. Tanya had been afraid. Because daughters who watch their mothers erase themselves learn, without a single word ever being spoken, that this is what being a woman costs. You give until there is nothing. Then you give the nothing. Then you are proud of it. Beverly had been teaching that lesson every single day for 20 years. With her lunch bag, with her pink lace she never replaced, with the jar she counted in secret in a closed closet. And she did not want her daughters to carry it forward. The third thing was the hardest. In a place she had never examined, Beverly had believed that wanting things for herself was selfish, that the jar was an indulgence she had to hide, that the sewing dream was something she hadn't earned yet, would earn later, when everything else was settled. But a woman who allows herself nothing is not generous. She is afraid. Beverly sat with that word, afraid. Afraid that if she took up space, there would be less for the people she loved. Afraid that wanting something made her ungrateful for what she had. She had been small on purpose, quietly and obediently and terrifyingly small, and she had called it strength. The fourth thing was about the jar. This is the part Beverly had been circling without naming for months. The thing that had been waiting for her since November. She went to the closet and took it down and counted the money on the kitchen table in the daylight for the first time. $263. 4 years of careful, secret, hopeful saving. And the sewing machine she had seen was priced at $285. $22 away. For 4 years, she had been exactly $22 away from the only dream she had allowed herself, and she had not moved. She had kept waiting for the right time, for permission, for things to settle, for a life that was never going to hand her a green light. The right time is a lie that tired women tell themselves to stay small a little longer. She understood that now, sitting at her kitchen table with the jar in front of her and the coffee warm in her hands. And the fifth thing came the way the truest things always come, quietly, from the edge of everything else. A well that pours and never drinks will be dry before spring. She had been pouring for so long, and she was almost dry, not broken, not finished, but close to the kind of tired that becomes something permanent if you wait too long to address it. She finished her coffee. It was still warm. That Saturday she drove to the mall. She parked. She walked in. She went to the store where she had seen the machine and stood in front of it for 4 minutes without touching it. Then she opened her envelope, counted out $285 in cash on the counter, and bought it. The woman at the register asked if she wanted the protection plan for $30 more. Beverly said no. She was done spending on things she didn't need yet. She put the box in the trunk of the silver sedan and drove home and set the machine up on the kitchen table. It took her 40 minutes to thread it properly because she'd forgotten some of the steps and had to look them up. She sewed a straight line and then a curved one across an old pillowcase, and then she just sat there with both hands resting on the machine and felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt like herself. Over the weeks that followed, she got up 30 minutes earlier on Saturdays, not for work, for the machine. She made a small pouch for Tanya's makeup brushes. She repaired the hem on a neighbor's church dress and refused to take money for it until the neighbor left a covered plate of cornbread on the step, and that felt exactly right. People at work noticed something different about Beverly. Nothing dramatic. She was not lighter or louder. She was just less stretched, less like someone holding herself together, and more like someone who simply was together. Denise called one evening. "Mom, you sound different. Good different." Beverly said, "I bought something for myself." Denise laughed. Finally. Not everyone saw it that way. A woman Beverly had carpooled with for 2 years made a comment once about hobbies and busy schedules. Beverly nodded and said nothing. She had stopped explaining her choices to people whose idea of strength was watching her run herself into the ground. She picked up a 4th afternoon at the dry cleaners, not because she was desperate, but because she had decided she was going to fill the jar again for the next thing. She didn't know yet what it was, but she was going to have something waiting, ready, when she found out. 9 months later, Beverly was in the school break room at lunch when one of the newer cafeteria workers, a woman named Patricia who had started in September, sat down at the table and did not open her lunch bag. She just sat there with her palms flat on the table and her eyes on the wall. Beverly poured 2 cups of coffee without asking and set one in front of Patricia and sat down across from her. Patricia was maybe 44, 45. She had the look of a woman who had been carrying something very heavy for a very long time and had only just noticed how tired her arms were. "You all right?" Beverly asked. Patricia shook her head once. "Small. I do everything right," she said. "I have a budget. I track every dollar. I don't waste anything. I work 2 jobs, and I'm still." She stopped, pressed her lips together. "I feel like something is wrong with me." Beverly looked at her for a moment. She thought about a green wool coat pressed smooth at the elbows. She thought about a checkout line and a woman standing perfectly still. She thought about the jar, which was back on the closet shelf now, around $140 in it, growing slowly but growing, and no longer buried behind the sweater box. She had moved it to the front of the shelf where she could see it when she opened the door, a small change. But it was hers, and it was visible, and it was not a secret anymore. Beverly wrapped both hands around her coffee cup and said it. "A well that pours and never drinks will be dry before spring." Patricia looked at her. "You're not doing anything wrong," Beverly said. "You're just pouring without ever drinking. You can be responsible and whole at the same time. Those 2 things are allowed to live in the same house." You're taking poto. You can be responsible and whole at the same house. No dikienting het house. Wosses. Yeah. Hespekes. Kapohau. Patricia was quiet for a long time. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere down the hall, children were coming in from recess, their voices rising bright and thin through the cinder block walls. "Nobody ever told me that," Patricia said. "I know," Beverly said. "Nobody told me either." They drank their coffee. Outside, the children ran. Beverly thought about Tanya in the kitchen doorway. "You never buy yourself anything." She had heard it as a small thing. It had been the largest thing anyone had said to her in years. And she thought about Patricia's daughter, or her niece, or the young woman who was watching Patricia, the way Tanya had watched Beverly, learning right now, without a single lesson being announced, what it meant to be a woman who gives. And maybe now the lesson would be different. Maybe now the lesson would include the other half. You are also the well. You have to tend what you draw from. When Beverly got home that evening, she changed out of her work clothes. She took off the left sneaker, the one with the pink lace. She had bought new white laces last month, had replaced the right one already. But the pink lace she had taken out carefully and set in the small dish on her nightstand, the one where she kept her earrings. She hadn't been able to throw it away. It was a reminder of the woman who had put herself last for so long she had stopped noticing, and of the woman who had found her way back, $22 at a time, one Sunday morning at a time, one cup of coffee drunk hot at a kitchen table while the house was quiet and the machine waited in the corner by the window where the morning light came in right. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it before you scroll past. When is the last time you spent money on something just for you? Not for your kids, not for your house, not because there was a bill due or an emergency or someone who needed something, just for you, because you wanted it and you deserved it, and it didn't need any other justification than that. If you're struggling to remember, this video was for you. If you felt something in your chest when Beverly was counting that money on the kitchen table in the daylight for the first time, this video was for you. If someone has ever said, even quietly, even with love, you never do anything for yourself, and you brushed it off because you had too much to handle, this video was for you. You can be responsible and whole. Those two things are allowed to live together. You are not being selfish when you drink from your own well. You are keeping yourself alive so you can keep giving. That is not a luxury. That is how it works. Come down to the comments right now and type Dia1 and tell me one thing you are going to do today just for yourself. One thing. It doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to be big. It can be a cup of tea you actually sit down to finish. 10 minutes with a book. A phone call you've been putting off because you thought you didn't have time. Something you've been putting coins toward in a secret jar. Tell me. I am going to read every single comment. And if this story reached you, please share it. Send it to your sister. Send it to your friend who packs the same lunch every day and never complains and somehow always has less than she deserves. She needs to hear this. She needs to know there is another way. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself, for real this time.